Thank you so much. Much appreciated. Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Gina Battye, CEO and founder of the Psychological Safety Institute. Today, I want to talk to you about psychological safety, as has already been mentioned. And specifically, I want to look at psychological safety isn't what you think it is. Okay, I'm here to set the record straight. So here's what you have been led to believe psychological safety is. So it's a shared belief within a team. It's about interpersonal risk taking. It's about admitting mistakes. It's speaking up. And it's doing all of this without fear of negative consequences or repercussions. Now, when you think of when you think of psychological safety, chances are you do think of those words that I've just put on the screen there. And that's because that's what we have been led to believe psychological safety is. Many organizations are now putting time, energy, and resource into creating the environment for people to speak up. So this idea of speak up cultures, I believe speak up cultures are overrated, misunderstood, and dangerously misleading. And I want to talk to you about why I believe that is the case. Now, the reason is simple. Speaking up is the outcome, not the foundation to build your culture on. You can't demand it or design it into existence. When organizations promote a speak up culture, they make 3 risky assumptions. And I'm going to go through those with you right now. So assumption 1 is that everyone already feels safe. Psychological safety isn't a slogan on the wall. Okay, it's not a poster in the break room or on the back of bathroom doors telling people that it's safe to speak your truth. It's an individual's lived experience of safety, comfort, and confidence in a given moment. It's personal, it's contextual, and it's deeply affected by environment and relationships. In essence, it's how safe you feel in this moment, in this space, with these people. And here's the thing, no 2 people in your organization will feel exactly the same level of safety. Now, this idea of speak up culture assumes that they do, and that they all have the right environment to share their concerns. If you ask people to speak up in a toxic, negative, or unsafe environment, you're not empowering them, right? You're throwing to the wolves and handing them a microphone. Now, as it's often defined, speak up culture encourages people to admit mistakes, give feedback, take risks, voice opinions, and be their authentic selves without fear of any sort of repercussion. And yeah, I mean, that's great. It's a noble idea. But the reality is that without real psychological safety, those very actions can backfire and cause harm. And without the groundwork of genuine psychological safety, speaking up isn't empowering, it's actually exposing. So assumption 1 was everyone already feels safe. Assumption 2 then is people have the skills to actually do it, to actually speak up. And we've got to remember here that speaking up is not just talking, it's a skill set, okay? It takes self-awareness, strong communication skills, and an understanding of team dynamics. It also needs a safe, inclusive space to speak into. Now, most people haven't been trained in these skills, right? So, when we go through our schooling experience and when we're growing up, we don't get taught these skills explicitly, but yet we assume that people have these skills already, and organizations pull upon those skills and expect them to perform on demand. But not everybody has those skills. Organizations, they put up, we encourage you to speak up banners without giving employees the tools, the training, the resources, or the protected space to actually practice those elements of speaking up. And that isn't empowerment, that's actually negligence. So assumption 2 is people have the skills to speak up. Assumption 3 is that superficial fixes are going to solve this. Now, in the rush to create speak up cultures, companies often grab the low-hanging fruit. Typically, those things like anonymous reporting tools, trust building workshops, vague statements about respect, all great ideas, but totally inadequate. Because here's the truth, right? This is what it comes down to. If the individual doesn't feel safe, no tool, no workshop, no team building exercise is going to magically make people feel comfortable and confident to speak up. And this, my friends, is why speak up initiatives fail. They're surface level and they miss the deeper work. So a little bit there on why I think speak up cultures are misleading, sometimes dangerous. I hope that kind of solidifies my thinking around that. So what is psychological safety and what isn't it? Right, we've already touched upon what it isn't. Let me set the record straight. Psychological safety isn't a shared team belief. It's not about creating speak up cultures. It's not focused on taking interpersonal risks. And it's definitely not associated with fear or negative consequences. The real question for leaders is, how do we get people to speak up? Right? That's what leaders are asking. How do we get people to speak up? The real question should be, how do we create the conditions where people want to contribute, where they can actually contribute? Not getting them to speak up, but how will they naturally do that? True contribution depends on conditions. So the environment, relationships, and individual readiness. So how ready am I as an individual to actually contribute in that situation? And without the foundations of self-awareness, communication skills, healthy team dynamics, and a genuinely safe environment, speaking up can do more harm than good. So I urge you to stop trying to make people speak up and focus instead on building environments where contribution happens naturally. Because here's the truth, when you stop telling people to speak up and instead design a culture where they want to, the energy in your organization shifts. You can feel it, it's tangible. Ideas start to flow, collaboration deepens, people feel seen, valued, and connected. Contribution becomes instinctive, not optional. The real problem here with psychological safety is a flawed definition. So the most common definition that you will have probably heard of psychological safety is this. It's a shared belief within a team that it's safe to take interpersonal risks without fear of negative consequences. Now, it sounds great in theory, but it's flawed. If psychological safety were truly a shared belief, everyone in a team would feel the same level of safety. So if I went into that team, imagine I walk into that team that's assembled and I said to everybody in front of each other, how safe do you feel in this team? I can guarantee most people in that team would go, yeah, it feels all right. Some people might go, it's brilliant. And some people might just keep quiet. Now, if I take those individuals out of that team situation and ask them in the corridor, walking along on their own, how safe they feel within their team, the answer is most likely going to be quite different. Because in that team environment, they are going to voice that everything's okay. But the minute that you get them away, that might change. Okay, so every single person in that team has a different level of safety. Not everybody in that team is going to feel that same level of safety because that's not how human experience works, is it? Let's be real. So what is psychological safety? Let me delve into that aspect now. We've looked at what it isn't. Let's look at what it is. Psychological safety is an internal, momentary state. It's an individual's internal state of safety, comfort, and confidence in a specific context. So that might be a specific space that they find themselves in, a situation, or an interaction. It's deeply personal. So my experience of safety is going to be very different to your level of safety, more often than not in exactly the same situation, because we're having different experiences in that same situation. So it's personal, it's subjective, and it shifts based on context, environment, and interaction. So can you see how much wider and more holistic this is than speaking up and admitting to mistakes? I hope so. I'm going to unpack it a little bit more to kind of delve into that. So psychological safety, as I mentioned, is an internal moment-to-moment state. So what that means is, in this moment, I'm presenting to you. I feel quite safe in this moment, okay? But let's say that after doing this presentation, I get called in to speak to a team of senior leaders. I get called in, don't know why, and I'm expected to stand in front of this group of senior leaders. In that moment, I would not feel the same as I do in this moment. Okay, so imagine if I'm in that environment with the senior leaders, maybe there's a row of 4 of them sat along a table, all looking at me with an expectation, and I'm there not knowing why I'm there. Obviously, I'm going to feel a little bit anxious, nervous, a little bit tense, probably. My whole energy will have shifted from how I am right now. So it is a very internal thing. It's something that I'm feeling inside. You might not even notice that I feel different, but it's something that I notice. And it's a moment-to-moment state. So every single situation, conversation, interaction I find myself, I'm going to feel slightly different. Psychological safety is an individual's lived experience of three things. So safety, comfort, and confidence in any given moment. It's personal, it's fluid, it can shift multiple times in a single day. Think about it, right? You might have an idea, okay? And you might share it with one of your colleagues that you feel safe and comfortable sharing stuff with. And they say to you, do you know what, that's a brilliant idea. Why don't you go and share it with your manager? So you get a meeting, you go stand in front of that manager, and then there's an expectation that you present that idea. I can guarantee that you'll be feeling a very different level of safety in those two interactions. Okay, so with your colleague, with your friend, quite flowing, quite easy, chatting, quite open about the idea that you have. In the next moment, when you stood there with your line manager, you might be closed down, you might be thinking about it a little bit more, you might be second guessing yourself, thinking, was that a good idea? But yeah, your energy will have changed. Two different situations, different story. Psychological safety is shaped by context. So things like who's in the room, what is the size of the group, what are the behaviors that are going on within that room. It's shaped by environment. So is it supportive? Is it toxic? It's shaped by interactions. So are you receiving constructive feedback or are you receiving public criticism? That would affect how safe you feel. It's also tied to mental clarity. So mental clarity, emotional regulation, and mental steadiness, all of which can change in an instant. So when I think of key elements of psychologically safe workplaces, I'm looking for things like authenticity, emotional intelligence, self-awareness, effective communication, and that includes strong conflict resolution skills, all of the good and bad aspects of communicating. And it includes things like navigating personalities and team dynamics effectively. So in reality, psychological safety, in a nutshell, is about how individuals feel right now. It's rooted in mental and emotional processes. It's how psychologically safe you feel in any given moment, and that can change from moment to moment. And don't forget that two people in the same team or the same situation can experience very different levels of psychological safety. So psychological safety isn't about urging people to take interpersonal risks or to be brave, okay? It's about creating the conditions where bravery isn't needed. When they truly feel safe, valued, and included, they will want to contribute. They'll want to share new ideas. They'll want to challenge thinking. And that's when teams thrive. So put your attention on creating and nurturing a psychologically safe and healthy culture, and people will naturally speak up. Force it without laying the groundwork, and you'll create the opposite of what you intended. So let's talk now about culture and the different levels of psychological safety that exist within an organization. Culture. So culture isn't singular. Let's just put that out there. It's not monolithic, all right? It's more nuanced and layered than you might think. It's a 5-level ecosystem that either amplifies human potential or it squashes it. So to reiterate, psychological safety exists at 5 different levels within your organizations. And most culture change efforts focus on just one level. And it's usually the big organizational stuff like values and policies and that kind of thing. But real transformation happens when you address all 5. So I want to introduce you to those 5 now. Contribution flows when organizations pay attention to these 5 levels of culture. And it all starts with personal culture. So we're starting at the bottom there, level 1. Okay. Personal culture. A little bit about this then. So psychological safety starts with individuals. People need to understand their beliefs, their triggers, and their patterns. Emotional intelligence and self-awareness form the roots of contribution. And without these, nothing else takes hold. So that's level 1. Level 2 is one-to-one culture. And this level concerns direct interactions between two individuals. Everyday conversations matter, right? Are people present and are they listening actively? Are they responding with empathy and clarity? Trust is built in these everyday interactions, and without it, contribution stalls. The third level is team culture. So now moving up to the team level, team culture addresses the dynamics and the interactions within a team. Teams need norms and boundaries, right? Meetings and collaborative processes should invite contribution rather than encourage competition. Belonging isn't created by chance. It's structured through the way a team works together day by day. So that's level 3. Level 4 is collaboration culture. And this level highlights how different teams, departments, or groups within the organization interact and collaborate. How teams interact across departments affects the whole organization. Removing structural barriers, aligning goals, and encouraging joint problem solving prevents friction and fuels innovation. And lastly, we've got level 5, which is organization culture. So finally, we're going to zoom out to the whole system now. Organization culture encompasses the overall culture of the organization. It's driven by its policies, leadership, and overarching values. It includes leadership style, management practices, organizational policies and procedures, things like reward systems and recognition, communication, decision-making processes, ethical standards, support systems, all of that kind of good stuff comes under organizational culture. Leaders must model authentic dialogue. Policies and processes should support openness, not punish it. And the wider environment either reinforces safety or it erodes it. So when I go into an organization and when I'm working with organizations, this is the methodology that I take in with me to diagnose the issues that they might be having. We start with the 5 levels of culture. So we start right at the very bottom, level 1, and we work our way through up to level 5. So how I see it is level 1 is about me. Level 2, I'm opening out that to a one-on-one conversation with somebody. Level 3 is I'm opening it out a little bit further now to encompass a team, so a group of people. Level 4, I'm going to opening that out to include multiple teams. So it's not just my team, there's multiple teams involved. And then the last layer, level 5, opens it out to the whole organization. So those are the 5 different levels of culture within an organization. Safety isn't just about following procedures, okay? It lives or dies in the way we show up for ourselves, for each other, and our teams. Every choice that you make strengthens or erodes it. But the most important message here is it starts with you, how you show up at work. When you feel safe in all 5 of those levels, something extraordinary happens. People stop just surviving another week. They start truly thriving. Confidence rockets, relationships blossom, and communication breakdowns become the exception, not the rule. The organizations that embrace this holistic approach enjoy performance gains across the business, because exceptional results always come from people working brilliantly together every day at every level. We call these authentic organizations. So listen, there are hundreds of you listening in around the world right now. It's very exciting. And you all have a responsibility. You need to become more aware of you and start to show up in a way that supports you and others around you, and start spreading this message about what psychological safety actually is. So here are a couple of tips that I've put together to get you started in creating a psychologically safe workplace. So we're going to start off with your current state of mind. As I've mentioned, psychological safety starts with you. Understand your own emotions, triggers, and communication style. Show up authentically. Model the behavior that you want to see. Think about how you feel about work in general as well. Okay, so your role and the people that you work with, because that directly affects how you behave when you're in the workplace. Your emotions also affect what you say and what you do. So think about those things. Think about how you feel at work. Think about your emotions. Think about the triggers that set you off onto a negative slide of thoughts and feelings. And think about how you respond in those moments. The first stage is raising your awareness of all of that, okay? The second thing I want to mention is about your energy. So have you ever noticed, right, that there are some people that repel other people, and there are some people that are magnetic, right? You want to spend time with them. The difference here is their energy. So I want you to think about, what energy do you bring? Are you uplifting and empowering other people? Or are you low and draining people's energy? You can consciously choose how you show up at work. So raise your awareness of your energy too. When you develop self-awareness, you start understanding your impact on others. So it does start with you. Next, I want to talk about authenticity. So I talk about this thing around the ripple effect. Okay, so I want you to start thinking about, who do you currently feel safe with in your work environment? Might be one of your colleagues, it might be a manager, it could be anybody. Okay, so think about who you feel safe with, and think about what boundaries you've set around the conversations that you have. So are there certain things that you do talk about with them and certain things that you don't talk about with them? Have a think about what those current boundaries are. And then I want you to have a think about the people that you're not so open or not authentic with. And think about the difference between the person that you get on really well with and those people that you don't. I want you to have a think about your boundaries that you've set around communication and conversations that you will and won't have. And think, what are the things that I do feel safe talking about with anybody? Make a note of those. And also make a note of the things that you definitely don't want to talk about with anybody. This is you setting your own boundaries, okay? Once you know what those boundaries are, I'm then going to encourage you to have a conversation with somebody that you don't get on so well with, but share just a little bit more than you would normally, that lies within those boundaries that you've already set. The more that you do that on an ongoing basis, the more that you will feel authentic. Okay, but also what will happen is, it's the ripple effect. You know, when you throw a pebble into a lake or a still pool of water, you get that ripple effect. Well, if people can see and feel that you are being more authentic with them, chances are that will ripple out to them too. Okay, and they'll start to show up more authentically. So others around you will start to show up a little bit more and be authentic in return. So I want you to focus on those relationships for a little while. Just be curious and experiment a little bit. See what you feel comfortable sharing and what you don't feel comfortable sharing. Expectations is really clear. Really key too. So set some clear expectations and boundaries. Define how teams communicate, handle conflict, respect boundaries, and celebrate achievements. Clear expectations reduce that uncertainty and create a predictable environment. Tension often occurs when expectations haven't been clarified. So try to get rid of all that tension, set clear expectations and boundaries. When you communicate your needs clearly instead of expecting or mind reading, collaboration does get easier. The last thing I want to mention is role models. So you are responsible for your own safety. I've iterated that a few times now. So start with you, okay? But you've also got to remember that you have an influence on those people around you. Now, you might not know it, okay, but people are looking at you, they're watching you, okay? You are a role model for those people around you. You might not have a clue who's watching you, but I can guarantee people are watching you. So have a think about how you're currently showing up and think about being a role model. How can you step into that a little bit more? Because when you choose to contribute positively through your daily interactions, you're literally shaping the environment that everyone else experiences. Your workplace culture isn't something that happens to you. You actively co-create it with every interaction, every conversation, every choice that you make about how you treat the people around you. So I want to wrap up with these final words. You can start right now. Take responsibility and work on you. If you want to come to work and feel safe, confident, and comfortable, so have a psychologically safe environment, and you want to be able to thrive, it starts with you. Work on you, and together you will create a healthier, happier place to work. Thank you. That's it from me. Do we have any questions that have come in?
Gina, thank you for that. Wow, so many insights. My head is literally buzzing. I took so many notes, and I particularly liked the phrase around, throwing them to the walls but giving them a microphone. It really struck a chord with me. I have definitely been guilty of creating that environment in the past, thinking that I'm doing the right thing by giving a voice without the skills on how to use that voice. So that was really powerful and a very good reminder. Also on the energy, can I just say, the weight of responsibility of being one of many wonderful hosts on this session was weighing on me heavily, wanting to do a good job for Matt and the team, and was feeling a little bit nervous. And then you came on, and your energy just like lit up the room and elevated
bless you.
the
Thank
energy
you.
massively. And I was like, right, yeah, come on, let's do this. I'm ready for
we can
it.
do this. Come on.
Yeah. So thank you for that.
Bless
also,
you. You're very welcome.
An example of how we behave and how we respond creates that safe environment for others. Live in action. So thank you for that. I also, one thing I really took away from your talk as well is actually we could feel overall psychologically safe in a particular environment, but not with every person. And one day we might feel psychologically safe, another day we're bringing something with us, or we're triggered by something that therefore means we're not. And that's quite interesting, I think, because I suppose I've kind of always been of the belief of we want to create this psychologically safe workplace, but actually we don't have a lot of control on people feeling like that all day, every day. Really interesting.
No, you don't have a really good point. No, you don't have control on how individuals feel, but you do have control over a lot of the elements around that. So, you could have support mechanisms in place, even just getting to know your team a little bit better, so getting together, discussing how can we tell if you're not quite feeling good on a particular day, like having that conversation. We don't tend to do it, but no. Actually, if you just do, and you just take a few minutes out to go around everybody and go like, so what might I see? If you were feeling like you're not on top form one day, what might I be seeing? What might I be experiencing of you? Have that real conversation, real honest conversation. So, you're taking the guesswork out of it, because quite often, right, we can come into a workplace and you can see somebody's not quite right for whatever reason, but we tread on eggshells a little bit, don't we? And we think, I don't want to say anything. But actually, if we just have that conversation beforehand, then we know what that person will want us to do in that.
Thank you, Gina. I think we may have lost.
We're having a connection. Yeah, we've got a bit of a connection thing, haven't we? I think. Sorry, everyone, if we.
No, I think we got most of that, and I don't know if there are any further questions in the chat. I'm not sure. I guess I've just got one final question before we wrap up.
Please.
In terms of when you go into workplaces and you're going through that process of those five levels of the ecosystem, which I also love that as well, because I tend to look at it kind of from the top, not from all those individual points. How do you approach that with like a senior team? These are the conversations that you're going to have. How do you create that feeling of psychological safety for them to go through the process with you?
Yeah, brilliant question. So it all starts with conversations. So once we engage with an organization, typically we will start with the senior leadership team. We'll go in and have conversations with them. So typically myself and the team will go in, we'll meet with them, we'll have some really just introductory, exploratory kind of conversations first to find out what's going on in the business. Once we've kind of got a bit of an understanding, I then spend quite a bit of time in the business. I could spend anywhere between 10 to 30 days within the business, getting an idea of what's going on. So we really dive into the business to understand where the issues are. But in terms of the senior leadership team, we spend time with them. We run workshops with them. We talk them through the 5 levels. I'm very upfront and honest about the things that I'm looking at when I'm in the business. Once we've gone through those couple of workshops that we do with them, at that point, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, they let me go. They let me into the business and I can just, poke around, have a look and see what's going on. And at the end of that, then I send them a report and get them all together again to deliver the report and say, okay, so look, everyone, this is what I found. These are the issues. It's not just focused on psychological safety as well. As you can tell from those 5 levels, we're looking at a lot of different areas there. So for some organizations, we've actually looked at the management structure because it wasn't working. Okay. They've gone through restructure as part of that. And then we support them through that process. But yeah, it's different for every single organization, but that's kind of the general theme that we go through. yeah, spend time, talk is one of the things that is most underrated, right? Yeah,
it is now, definitely.
Yeah, amazing.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time. It was I could chat away for hours asking questions, but we do have more speakers to come. So I hope you enjoy the rest of the summit too. And yeah, thanks again for your really insightful talk.